Hello, I'm Dr. Tom, and I'd like to welcome you to another Friday update. And I will share with you today the spectacular news that events are back. It is my pleasure to share with you just a few moments and snippets and some pictures from a Super Saturday that we had this past weekend at Flaming Farm. And I will share with you that this is a scenario that unfolded because of Julie and Nevin Christensen's involvement in a 6th-generation farm. They have entrenched themselves and embedded themselves into their local community, and it really showed. And the people who were willing to jump in and help, and people that donated things, and people that were volunteering to share during this event really warms the heart. And I will explain with you that's what a community is about. That's what Gin is about. That's what draws people into Gin. It's a feeling that you get and I cannot overemphasize this at these events. When you get around other like-minded individuals inside the world of Gin, it changes you. It changes your frequency, your vibration, your outlook. They did such a great job of sharing their story and inspiring others. And Blaine Athorn, of course, did a training there on a 6-step challenge solution or challenge solving wheel. Training that he's utilized and tweaked and perfected over years, that originally started with some Xerox training that he did. And it turned it into a live workshop, an actual problem solving workshop right in the moment, broken up into teams, and they talked about real life challenges and brought about solutions. There were some great ideas. You see, it created a mastermind. It created a collective consciousness of the participants. And what a very special group of people, because there were so many upper level members there and so many new members and guests. What a blend, so that those newer members and people who were just taking their first peek under the hood of Gin could share some time with upper level members. We had affiliates that joined. We had guests that joined this club at your club. We had people who had been members previously who rejoined this club. And one of their great comments was, it's just difficult to describe how much I really missed this club. The energy of these people, it's that loving, caring, solution-oriented, positive atmosphere that is difficult to find in so many places on the planet right now. This is what Gin is about. This is why it's so important. Multiple people upgraded multiple levels because they understand to get to level 7 in order to receive level 8 free from KT. The time is now. The time is now to do this, to take action, to just make a decision. It's really that simple. Just make a decision to move forward. And as soon as you do, you will be amazed at the number of things that are attracted into your world, into your space, into your life, into your family, into your community, into your thought process, into your energy being that shifts you. And you will have friends tell you you're different. Well, different isn't bad. You're different because you're evolving. You're different because you're growing. You're different because you're responding differently to situations and circumstances than you would have prior to the training in the Success Mastery course. This is the importance of these meetings. We have the Midwest retreat coming up this weekend with David Kruger and Josh Novi, of course, in Indiana. Spectacular event. We have events coming up in Europe, in Paris. Joining Catherine in Paris, we have multiple leaders there, of which Aileen and Jean-Luc and Carolyn and Etienne and Veronica and Lee Kinney will be joining to provide content throughout this weekend. Again, go to the website, check it out. You can go under events. It's all listed there. That's where you can register. That's where you can gain information. There will be membership overview meetings. There'll be Success Mastery course training. This will be there's a local chapter meeting going to take place. believe me, when Catherine Rossi puts together an event and works with the people in her team in Paris, you will love this event. Make sure you get there if it's at all possible for you to travel there. I will share with you also that, of course, we have upcoming a Successful Life Experience, which will be in St. Augustine, Florida, again in October. Check the website again for those specific dates, the hotel where you'll be, to be able to share time with the Ward family, with Erlene and Ed, to have them share with you those messages about Jen, those messages about life, those messages about adding solutions, those messages about understanding how this all fits, how this all ties together. This event section that I chose to share with you today. Lastly, I would like to talk about the Jen website. When you go there, you can go to the dashboard tab up across the top, and that's how you register for the virtual chapter meetings. That's how you can see the listing of all of the meetings that are happening each week, every month, where you can plug into those and you can be a part of in essence, a local chapter meeting virtually. Meetings are back. I'm so proud to hear that. As a matter of fact, I have a message for you from the attendees at Super Saturday at the Flamig Farm. Let's hear from your Jen brothers and sisters. What do they think about meetings?
Jen Life Training is back!
Thank you so much for that warm message all the way from Connecticut to each of your Jen brothers and sisters throughout the world. We also have a new Financial Friday release from Lee Kinney this week. Be sure and look for that. I will let you know that the first 4 recommendations that he has given us have shown a spectacular return, so be sure and take a look at that. Today I would like to speak with you for just a moment about lesson number 9 from the Law of Success series by Napoleon Hill. And this is so appropriate right now. It's the title of the chapter is actually Do More Than You Are Paid For. Do more than you are paid for. And this is so important right now because it's the concept of doing more than you're asked. You see, this is where we will begin to separate people. As the challenges that the planet has, the challenges and the stresses of the workplace worldwide, things you can do, things you can't do, limitations, restrictions on things. You see, all of those things will merely allow the cream to rise to the top. They truly will. If you provide more service, let me just share an example. I've had lunch out a couple of days this week, and in one scenario, Dr. Ted and I went to a restaurant here in downtown Rogers, and you know, we were greeted and seated by someone who does not like their job. Someone who does not, they not only don't love their job, they didn't like their job. And so they have a different attitude. And of course, they're wearing a mask, and so they're mumbling under that mask, and you can't understand them, and they make no effort to help you. They ask you a question when you're seated, what would you like to drink? So you have to listen really carefully. What would you like to drink? And so we ordered a couple of glasses of water with lemon. And he said, okay, I'll give you the menus. And then he asked again, what would you like to drink? You see, this is a classic example of a lack of present time consciousness. This is someone who's not being where they're at. This is someone who's not paying attention. This is someone who's just going through the motions. And I can assure you that with the reductions that are happening in the restaurant industry, just in this industry in particular, the cream will rise to the top. The people who are good at their job, who enjoy their job, who do more than they're paid for, will be paid more. They will be in higher demand. They will receive higher tips. They will be noticed by others who have other types of restaurants where maybe the tips could be larger. There will be opportunity for those who can shine. As opposed to the second place that we went for a takeout, and the people in there were very bubbly and very kind and very helpful. And your feeling is, you see, so much of that experience is a feeling. And the feeling is, I can't wait to come back here. This is a great place. You guys are having fun. You guys are enjoying. You love your job. So if you're not in a situation where you cannot or do not or choose not to love your job, get a different job. Life is so short. We are only here on this planet for such a short period of time in this physical body. Make an environment, create an environment in which you can excel and in which you can be happy, in which you can be all that you were destined to be and designed to be. You're the only you that will ever be here. You're the only you that will ever walk the face of this planet. You have a responsibility in that. Do more than you're paid for. This chapter in the book was amazing to me, as all of them are, because, and here's why. I understood this principle, the habit of doing more than you're paid for, before I heard of the law of success and before I heard of Napoleon Hill. Because I was taught this principle by my father. This was a principle that he didn't just share with me. He shared with Dr. Ted. He shared with Dr. Sue. He shared with anyone that would listen. Anyone who asked his advice, because he was one of those people that became a mentor to many. Do more than you're asked for. Do more than you're paid for. It's the same concept. And when you do, you create an energy of abundance. And when you create an energy of abundance, particularly if you can do this inside an industry or an endeavor that you love, if you'll do this in a job that you love, or do something for someone or something that you love, it triggers the same feeling. It's the same emotion. It's stored in the same area of the brain and it emits the same energy. Remember, we receive and we send. One of these quotes, it says, I have yet to find the first man who amounted to very much, who had not the courage to assume responsibility for his own mistakes without being accused. You see, this is why we talk about accepting responsibility in Jen. Once you accept responsibility for your actions, once you accept responsibility for what you say, and once you learn to accept responsibility for what you think, before anybody else interacts or accuses you or comments on it, you regulate yourself. You see, who are you? Who are you? Do you critique yourself? I watch each of these lessons every week. I watch my Wellness Wednesdays. I review them and I critique them because it is my desire to become a better communicator. It is my desire to grow and to be able to share and to help any single person on this planet who chooses to move forward. It is my desire to make that an easier path. Not to do it for you. Completely different concept. To make it a path that you can walk, so that you can walk your path. The habit of doing more than paid for. There are 10 weaknesses against which most of us must guard ourselves. One of these is the habit of trying to reap before we have sown. What an incredibly valuable lesson. And the other 9 are all wrapped up in the one practice of creating alibis to cover every mistake made. Excuses, alibis, excuse-itis, part of the very fundamental Jen training. You see, these concepts are over a century old. These concepts, some of them are thousands of years old. They work. The habit of doing more than you're paid for. I told you earlier that I shared with you that my father taught me this principle at a very young age. And I always observed, we grew up in a small town here in Rogers, Arkansas. I still live here. And he had such a successful practice because he always gave a little bit more. He always did a little bit more. He always cared a little bit more. He always paid attention to a little bit more detail. He always gave a little better service than was required or that people expected. And in doing so, he became incredibly successful. As a matter of fact, he was asked to serve as the president of his chiropractic college that he graduated from, and then was later asked to be the president of the Chiropractic College. It was founded by the founder, Jim Parker, of the greatest chiropractic industry, seminar business, in the history of chiropractic, because he did a little bit more. And he instilled that principle in us. And we grew up on a farm, and we learned about hard work, and we learned about work ethic, and we learned about there's always more to do, and there's about planning your day and doing things in a priority system. All of those things came natural because he taught them to us. He was a mentor. He was an uncle. He was a father. He was a guru, if you will, in that he led. And he led by example. Love what you do. Love what you do. Because when you love what you do, people feel it. People feel it. People know when you're genuinely, authentically into what you do. Are you? I ask you to reevaluate your life from time to time. Think about what you're doing as a vocation. Think about what you're doing. Well, how are you spending your time? Are you moving forward? Are you paying attention to the surroundings? Have you been someone, as for instance, with Julian Nevin? Nevin had a health challenge earlier in the last 12 months, and then he had an accident, and then COVID hit, and the farm was unable to do much of what it does because the public wasn't allowed to attend. They weren't allowed to come to the petting zoo. They weren't allowed to come to events that they'd planned, that they'd done year after year after year. Things that generated revenue that sustain a farm. Now, they could have just quit and complained and whined and said, oh, poor us. But that's not what they did. They applied their Gen training in every one of the best years ever. Because as small business owners, they understand you have to reinvent yourself from time to time. You have to move with the times. You have to provide a service that is in demand and can be obtained. You see, they applied those principles. They didn't just quit after the first time they got knocked down. This is the page that I opened this book to today that had me share this story. When I went over and picked up the book and one of these laws, I said, what are we going to talk about today? And this is the page that I opened it to. And it says, if you've tried and met with defeat, if you have planned and watched your plans as they were crushed before your eyes, just remember that the greatest men in all of history were products of courage. And courage, you know, is born in the cradle of adversity. Courage is born in the cradle of adversity. And I would say that when these books were written almost 100 years ago, the primary focus was men in the workplace, and I would add women to that phrase as well, that the greatest men and women in all of history understood courage. It's kind of like being presented an opportunity. And how do you respond to that opportunity? Well, this teaching says that there are two reasons for you to do more than you're paid for. And the first one is because you'll build a reputation. And when you build that reputation, here's how it works. You build that reputation where you're not the most inexpensive person. You may be the most expensive person in your service. And this applies to any service that you do. You build a reputation as being the best. You build a reputation as being the best. And when you are the best, then you can increase your fees. So you can actually be paid like you're the best. You see, this will result in greater incomes to you because you are doing more than you're getting paid for, regardless of what the fee is. You see, it's not based on the fee, it's based on the service. The more you do, the more you can charge, and the more people will be attracted to you, and they won't be basing it on it's a deal, it's cheaper, it's less expensive. It's the fact that it's worth it, regardless of what your fees are in whatever industry that you're in. Whether you're an employer or an employee, just do a little more. You see, the employees will gain in that they will be recognized. As a matter of fact, he even mentions a statement in here that I wanted to share with you, which says, personally, I never received a promotion in my life that I could not trace directly to recognition that I had gained by rendering more service and better service than that for which I was paid. He could trace directly to recognition. You see, recognition, another key to what we talk about in the Global Information Network. This is why recognition is so important. This is why we do recognition in our meetings, in our chapter meetings, in our virtual chapter meetings, and in our major events. This is why we will do recognition in Las Vegas. And you will be recognized if you're new to the club. You'll be recognized for every accomplishment. If you're new to a level, if you're new to level 2, if you're new to level 3, if you're new to level 4, if you're new to level 5, and so on. Because recognition is important. And it is that recognition that cements it in for the people, and the cheering and the support that they hear and they feel from you as other fellow Gen brothers and sisters in the audience is what keeps that fire burning. It's what builds that courage. It's what builds that strength. Because by doing more, you can be more, and therefore you will have more. Just do a little more. I'm Dr. Tom. Have a spectacular week.